Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Apolitically Incorrect Guyana. My name is KIAN Jabour, and as usual, I am your host this evening. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday night here in Georgetown. We have so much going on this week. We've had a very productive week. The weather has been fluctuating rapidly. We went from absolute thunderstorms yesterday and torrential downpour, flooding all across, all of a sudden to bright sunshine today. So we've had a roller coaster as far as the environment goes. And even more interestingly, we've had quite a roller coaster as far as our political situation goes here in Guyana. We are right smack dab in the midst of our, I guess as a lot of people like to call it, silly season, as it is campaign time for local government elections, which is going to be occurring on Monday the 12th, I believe. So, with that said, I have a wonderful guest with me this evening that we are going to be discussing not so much the local government side of things, but more so the national government side of things and Parliament. So welcome, Ms. Asha Kissoon, once again, one of our favorite guests.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for having me, Kian.
No, thank you for being here. We love having you here. You're always such a pleasant, unlike me and my rowdy self, you're a very calming, pleasant person to have around. So I do appreciate you coming on board to balance me out a little bit. Nonetheless, let's jump straight into things. Tell me, how is your stint in Parliament treating you? How are you doing? How are you enjoying it? Tell me what is it like? What update the people on what if they want to get involved in politics and get into Parliament? What advice do you have?
Yeah, well, it has been very interesting, mostly educational, because the perception of what goes on inside is not really what happens. I must tell you, I was having a discussion with a few of our followers today, and they kind of reminded me why I got into politics in the first place and where I am right now as a parliamentarian. It reminded me that one of the comments made by a very close person to me is like, oh my God, politics, it's so negative, it's not for me. And these people are always doing nonsense, the PPP or the PNC, that was the comment. And I was like, but I respect your decision not to get involved, but my decision in getting involved was that I can't trust these people with my future or my children's future. So while you move away from it because of the negativity, I've moved towards it because of that negativity to ensure that we have a say in our own future and the future of our children. Perfect. So what I can say is that work has begun. As you know, I'm currently working on 3 motions to be tabled. They're currently with the Clerk of the National Assembly.
Oh, nice. Tell us, what have you been tabling, please?
Yeah, so
it's not a secret. It's laws for the nation.
It's for everybody, and it's to benefit us all. As you're aware, Guyana is a 2-party system constitutionally.
Okay.
It caters for 2 political parties. So while we are here...
So basically only the PNC and PPP are catered
government and opposition are the only parties catered to by our constitution.
Nothing in between, no third parties, no...
Not at all. There is no room for third parties constitutionally. Excellent. So the first thing I will be tabling is to open the way for us as an independent opposition to have an independence and to be recognized as independents in Parliament.
Okay.
Because with all respect to the leader of the opposition, he's not our leader as the joiner.
Ah, okay, I see.
So when it comes to government and opposition is consulted in issues of national interest.
Okay.
Opposition is consulted in anything related to elections, and since we fall under the leader of the opposition, we're not consulted, we don't have a say. So the first thing I'm doing is to ensure that we are recognized constitutionally as independents in Parliament.
Okay. So let me just try and break this down, just so I completely understand. There's government in Parliament, and then there's opposition. Okay, so what you're really trying to create is more of the scenario, something of main opposition, and then independent opposition, kind of separating the 2 oppositions.
I believe it's important for us to be independent or separate, because I think, as you can agree, one of the reasons we got into politics, like I said from the beginning, is because the two-party system is not working.
Yeah.
And I've seen parties such as the AFC really try in the past, and they face challenges.
Okay.
So they ended up becoming part of a coalition.
Yeah.
We have no intention of joining anybody.
Right.
So in order to function, and what does it mean to function? These are where the other motions come in. GCOM. Of course, both of our manifestos said that it should be depoliticized. However, in the interim, we deserve a representative there.
Absolutely.
We have seen the old system where there's a vote of 3 yeses, 3 noes, and the chairperson left in the middle. So in order to play a part in our futures and the futures of the persons who support us, we need somebody there. So constitutionally,
Agreed.
a motion will be tabled for that. Funding. We spoke about this in our last segment together.
Interesting topic.
And by naming us independents, I'm not going to go, leader of opposition, please can you give me some money? No. As an independent opposition, this should be afforded to us to have an office and function and serve constituencies that vote for us.
Of course. Just I think to clarify, and I always like to make sure I hammer this point home, is the fact that, well, the government obviously is taxpayer funded. I mean, whenever they take in a helicopter to go to a campaign, whenever they drive in a vehicle, whenever they're, doing anything that they're doing, it's always obviously with government resources, which is taxpayer resources, because that's the only place the government is funded from. And then the second part of it is that, and this is what a lot of people don't know, is that the main opposition is given a stipend from taxpayers' money, a certain amount of money. And in our case right now, I think it's almost $3 million a month is allocated to APNU AFC,
Yes.
the same money that was allocated to PPP when they were in opposition. So a lot of people don't even know that.
Well,
they think that
there are arguments that it's not enough to get the political work done. But we're at a stage here where we have $0 as compared to $3 million per month.
Yeah.
And it's not to say we want to take taxpayers' dollars. This is in the Constitution. According to the laws of Guyana, this is afforded to opposition parties. So it's just
So how come only one opposition and not the rest?
Exactly. It's just saying by right, if it's in the law and it's in the Constitution, first recognize us as independents and then let us function how we should.
I like it.
This is exactly where my work is right now.
Well, it's funny because, on the topic of campaign financing, I mean, we recently just heard Vice President Jagdeo say that they don't want to release the names of any of the donors because they will be victimized. And we find that very funny because if you were to even look at the 2020 elections, up to this point, none of those parties have still handed in their balance sheets when it came to campaign spending.
It's quite a sore topic to bring up with major parties, both of them. Because, I mean, there's an integrity commission and there's always the challenge that nobody submits their assets or their balances.
So they don't want to tell who the donors are. And they don't want to say
from the donor side, to be honest.
No, but how do you, if you don't say the donors, how do you separate whether they use government money or private money?
That's the point I'm making. So I understand from the donor side, probably, I might be victimized if I give ANOG $10 million. But it should be done in such a way that only the high members of the Integrity Committee are privy to this information. It's important that the source of funding are named. Can every person in the public access it? Well, that's another discussion. But it should be given at least to the Integrity Committee.
Yeah.
Or commission.
It's an interesting topic of conversation because what ends up happening in Guyana, like everything else, it always is politicized. Meaning, let's say we were to name one independent organization in the country. You know what I mean? That is put together, whether GCOM or any of the board of directors for any of the organizations, they're always politicized. To the point where even down to the Judicial Service Commission, the Police Service Commission, the Labor Commission, all of these commissions always are government appointed, right? With a few seats here and there for opposition.
Yes, and it's something we've been saying over and over. The private sector needs the ability to function as a private sector and not governmentally influenced or swayed to certain decisions,
This is an interesting topic for me all the time because one of the areas that is always an issue with this country is obviously people being fearful of speaking out or getting politically involved. And what is interesting about that is that it's almost developed this, and this is my personal opinion, it's just kind of how I've assessed things, is it has created a very harsh and vicious scenario here in Guyanese society where you're either staunchly for one or staunchly for the other, but you're not actually allowed to have an independent voice without both sides attacking you. But what you find interesting about that is what it's caused is more people to actually stop helping other people. And I found it's created almost this culture all on its own in Guyana, where Guyanese, we don't help each other. No one is trying to help each other. So we read a scenario in the news, and all of a sudden you hear, oh, did you see the Madia fire? There's not me business. There's politics and all them thing. I don't get involved with there's negative and this and I sit in there going, but I don't understand. It fully involves all of us, because what makes you not the next victim?
Yeah.
What makes your children, what makes my children not the next one to be trapped in a school? So we reach this situation where we only think about ourselves now, because if we even attempt to think about other people, no, you're just doing it for politics, you're a bad person, you'll cuss you down on the internet, blah, 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 as you see all the trolls every day.
I'm really happy that you brought this up, and I actually have a message for our viewers in relation to this. I understand loyalty, and I understand your upbringing and certain political values that you have been brought up with. But we're all humans, and you have a conscience. And my advice to you tonight is vote for the party that's doing something for you or trying to do something for you. Not along political loyalty lines or because your parents voted for a certain party. You have to start voting on merits, on excellent work that is being done, not just using your taxpayers' dollar, but protecting the country's interests for future generations, for our children, for everybody that along the line will have to benefit from the resources that are available to us now. I believe that the younger voter population, the young people out there, local government is on Monday. So go out and vote, because it may seem useless to some people. Oh, it's just small things and politics is not for me. But you vote for your own consequences. And that's something you need to remember. You can make a difference. That same little X that you put besides whichever party that you support helps in the long run, because it gives you a voice and it gives you a say in a direction that you want to see your country and your future go into.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. On that topic, I want to start by bringing up some of the things that have happened this past week. All right, and one of them is there is this group, this wonderful group of business people that have launched a entrepreneurial award, and I like to bring this up because these guys have. I can ask our team here, our technical team, to bring up the guys for the Black Entrepreneurs. It's a group that offers $2 million in emancipation pitch competition. And I just want you to take a good look, because this, I'm familiar with a couple of the members on the panel, and I think it's a board of about 12 or 13. It's a lot of them. And what these guys have done is they have decided, you know what, since, business has its own challenges in Guyana, which we can get into over and over. We know, there's that lack of access to financing, the taxation system, lack of resources to help you build your business, etc., support facilities. These guys have put together this competition in which entrepreneurs can go and pitch their idea. It's not a Shark Tank idea. These guys are not investing in you, but they've accumulated this sum of money from different donations and areas. And it's actually 2 million is actually an old number. It's at $3 million now. Wow. That is more than any kind of loan or AmCham or GCCI pitch or anything that has been done before. So if you look at the team there, it's a group of relatively young guys. And
this is absolutely fantastic.
Unbelievable.
It shows that our people have vision.
Yes.
And that once they come together, they're able to accomplish great things.
So their group, and this is what's cool, their group is up to almost 300 businesses in Guyana.
That's amazing.
Unreal.
So imagine if they could get that done. What else could we not have?
And this is people with no resources, little to none, altogether.
Yeah.
So imagine they're put together 3 million Guyana dollars now, and it's a winner take all, and people are going to go and pitch their ideas to this group, and
that's amazing.
yeah, and one person is going to have $3 million to put
What I love
towards their
about
business.
it is that it's not political. So
Oh no, not at all. No, but that's why I like it too, because it's a group of people, and I spoke about helping each other. That's just a group of business people that are like, you know what, our peers and friends and business partners, they need help.
you know what I think is really amazing about this?
Tell me.
Is that it's motivating young people to come forward.
I love it.
That's it's inspirational. So persons sit down and they come up with their ideas and they go in.
Yeah, of course.
Apart from the money, that's besides, but the spirit of competition, the togetherness, it's brilliant.
Oh, it's magical.
Yeah.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We are going to now talk about a sore topic, and I don't like shifting off, into what's, some negative context, but the reality is, I think it's part of what I want to do on this show is really show what's happening on the ground. One of the things I'd like to say very clearly to our viewers is, we know that most of you, literally 95% of you, fall on either the PPP support group or the APNU support group. We get it. All right. We know the whole country is right down the middle. All right. One or the other. So what I'd like you all to do, and try to do this for me, is if you are somebody that likes to consider yourself an open-minded person, somebody that can, is willing to see other sides and listen to other sides, but at the same time, you still have your beliefs one way or the other, but you consider yourself an independent person, what you need to do is, I think you need to follow more than one news site. Because even the media is biased in this country. And there are a few news sites that I think is very important for people to really get a better understanding what is happening on all angles. So what I try to do, for example, I try to follow the government news sites like Newsroom and Chronicle and DPI, NCN. Those are all government, right? And then on the other side, you try to follow Gordon Mosley and TBN. Believe it or not, that was Lampy Pampy. But I remember that's where it started, right in front of the convention center during the recount. Nonetheless, TBN. And then there's quite a few very interesting independent. I find Gordon try to show different sides every now and again. But nonetheless, I read Stabroek News every day. Try reading Stabroek News every day. All right. And then there's other organizations like Travis Chase and so on that really show things from, a non-governmental perspective.
Yes.
And so my advice, and sorry, Demerara Waves is another one.
Oh, yes.
Chabral, right?
Definitely.
So you have three there. If you think that you are an open-minded person and you're willing to hear other sides of the story to understand, maybe there's more going on in Guyana, read Stabroek News every day, follow them on Facebook. You could their newspaper, you could just Google it and it comes up. Follow Gordon Mosley for his everyday news updates. Travis Chase, Dennis Chabral. I think those organizations there will give you a very good understanding of non-governmental information.
Well, Kian, what's interesting about this is not just in Guyana, but most countries.
Absolutely.
There is a bias that exists in the media. But in the age of technology right now, the advantage that our people have is that you have access to all these various news agencies, like you're saying. And that's really good advice. You do need to source different points of information and then come to a conclusion.
I always find it very interesting because whenever an article is released or something happens in the country, you read Newsroom and you get a very government pro, we love the PPP kind of headline. And then you read the rest, the Dennis Chabral, and they give you a very different perspective. And why I like that is you get a chance to kind of find your middle ground. And you sit down and say, okay, well, I hear what both sides are saying. Now let me try and figure out what I believe is the truth, right? And it kind of gives you an opportunity to kind of think on your own. I think we need that.
I must commend Demerara Waves, which is Dennis Chabral.
Yeah.
I mean, when we did our press conference and I was named as the incoming member of parliament, most of the government-associated media focused on the deputy speaker, which was disappointing for me because there were so many other things I spoke about. And the only person who took his time to focus on the points and my vision as an incoming parliamentarian was that
accurately kind of report.
Yes, he did. He was very accurate, and I was impressed.
Yeah, and that's the problem you have. These news sites, Newsroom and DPI and Chronicle, they'll just give you the side that the government wants you to hear, right? So they'll focus on the people that are friendly to them.
I must say, I still listen to Guyanese Critic.
Yeah, well, here we are on his page. I can challenge him though. He kind of lead in government a little bit though.
But that's okay. You see, he still brings us things live and direct, which is what I like.
Well,
because while he's there on site, even if he says something along the line, we still see what's happening.
Agreed. He's commenting plenty on his show though. That's my boy though. That's no problem. What I do want to say though is one of the things that actually critics spoke about is something very interesting that happened in the news. So recently, the government, this is going to be a very interesting topic of conversation. The government gave out a $40,000 cash grant to all parents that have children enrolled in school, whether private or public. Great initiative, interesting. I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like when you just blanket it and give everybody money, you're not, there are certain aspects of people in society that maybe don't need the money, right? So what I would have liked to see is people that are in a higher income bracket maybe have that amount of money allocated to poorer people, to people in a lower income bracket. Because the fact of the matter is $40,000 to somebody that is earning, $800,000 a month. The fact of the matter is, I'm sorry, there are people out there that need that money a little bit more. All right?
Well,
that's how I look at it.
I understand.
It's not just about handing money out Wild West.
I understand your points, but I have a little different perspective.
Go for it.
Okay? So, but I've been getting a lot of feedback from parents, persons in the community, and regardless of their income bracket, the money from the government's point of view is for the children. Of course, we know some parents are not going to use it on the children. That's another discussion. But it's for the children. And most persons actually appreciated equality, that whether they're in a private school, a public school, whether it's from a...
But shouldn't it be more equity than equality? I mean, the fact of the matter is we're not all even here. So to say equality is hard,
that's where the second part of my discussion comes in. I believe it's a good initiative. I appreciate that everybody was able to benefit from it. Because I know some parents who reached out and say, Doc, this really is going to help me.
Absolutely.
However, from another side, it's just a Band-Aid on a cut.
It's just a Band-Aid on a cut.
And it comes back to the concept, do we give a man a fish or do we teach a man to catch a fish? The persons you're talking about who are on the lower income bracket, more needs to be done to build them up because you can't have your people dependent on you for cash grants and handouts.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen some of the videos on Facebook and the fighting.
You know what, Paul? Sir, please, my technical team. I don't know if y'all want me to call your name. I was about to, but can you please look at this video?
This is me child, mother A. I come here to collect me child to go to school. Watch how she fighting me live on the Facebook. Fighting me for $40,000. Fighting me for $40,000. Fighting me for $40,000. Watch. You don't live, not me.
That's the part.
Here, fighting me for $40,000.
Yeah.
You know what I'm telling you? For go buy Red Dragon. Watch out your face good. Then gotta get all up for drugs.
Super uncomfortable.
The part about it is the child is right there. And then
it's one. I think there's a lot of parts here that we need to discuss. So let's start at the basics even before we get to these types of videos, because that's not the only one.
Yeah,
okay, I know every single person in this country could tell me about a problem in their village identical to that. Identical. So here's what I'm gonna say first of all. Why would they give out a cash grant in June for school supplies in September?
That's quite interesting. There are different points of views. One of the points of view out there is that school is closing at the end of June. So they would like to do it before the kids go on their break. And the other point of view is that local government election is on Monday. I'm just being honest with you because I've been speaking to the people. I'm on the ground every day. The other point of view is that local government election is on Monday, so it makes government look good.
Right. Well, I find it interesting because let's look at this from a perspective that I think is kind of blatantly obvious. The first thing is when you see people having that kind of reaction for $40,000. Now, between you and I, Asha, I have an 11-year-old child, right? You have I think your son is, 10 years old. There you go. You tell me how far $40,000 is get you.
Well, given the cost of living and the way the economy is going, it's really challenging. Not saying that it hasn't helped.
No, we can get in. Here, somebody give me $500 and can help. So hold on. Don't worry with the help. All right. I think we need to be realistic about this. Like the Band-Aid, like you were speaking.
Realistically, when it comes to textbooks, clothing, healthy meals, and the way cost of living has been, it's a little Band-Aid. It's
a little Band-Aid. Okay. Now, what I find so interesting is for that little Band-Aid that both of us in reality can say is a Band-Aid because we live it every day, we pay for our children every day, right? The fact of the matter is, look at the reaction that has happened across this country for this $40,000.
Yeah.
People have fought, literally physically fought each other.
What is really concerning is that desperation that we've been seeing. That need and desperation for it, and it shouldn't be that way.
That's what it is. It is so desperate for this money. That's what we've seen across the country, and this is what I cannot understand. People, if it's one thing.
Please understand, we're not saying that Guyanese people are desperate. Just for clarity, we're not saying that you're desperate for $40,000. We're saying that we're seeing a reaction of desperation towards cash grants that are being given out. And the point is that no citizen should ever be in a position to be in need of $40,000. You should have good jobs. You should be economically stable, financially stable to support yourselves.
Right.
And if there is a grant given, you can accept it and you can use it. But there shouldn't be that need. Every person in our rich country should be able to sustain themselves. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to do the calculation, I'm happy to go over it once again with you. This country, just so you know, make this clear. I like to say it as much as I can. Just so you know, after cost oil, so this is just profit oil, and then you split that 50-50, so our 50%, and then you add our 2% royalties. Just so you know, do the calculation. I'm happy to show you the math. Guyana earns in profit deposited into our natural resource fund account in New York every day, $10 million every single day, every 24 hours. Every time we sleep and wake up is another $10 million we make. So the question comes back to, as Asha just said, our extremely rich country, how people fighting for $40,000. Again, $40,000, that is a Band-Aid. Like it is so layered in a problem, in something that clearly is bigger than just the 40,000. The truth is, we happy for the 40,000. Everybody happy for the 40,000. But come on, how can we be this in need of that?
Yeah.
And again, what I'm most worried about is the fact that they have given out this $40,000 in June. How many of these children seeing this money in September? For school and books and uniform. Let's be realistic. If they're fighting each other all over the country for this 40,000, you tell me how the money reach in September.
There are a group of women that I speak to, that I work with actively, and most of them told me they took their money to the bank because many of them have more than one children.
Great.
And they put it in. Some parents like myself already bought books and stuff to use over the summer and to prepare for exams.
You're financially capable of doing that. On the other hand, you went fighting on the road.
That's it. It's quite sad, and the social systems need to be put in place to help these persons. And once again, I'm not saying that our Guyanese people are desperate for a cash grant, What we're saying is that everybody should be financially stable to not be dependent on grants or money given out.
Yeah. You know, talking about financially stable, I want to bring up the next topic of conversation here now. This was a GDF captain. This is a heartbreaking story. A GDF captain was shot and killed. We're going to bring it up. Was shot and killed in North Rumvelt over the last, I think it was 2 days ago. Now, this story really, I think, hurt a lot of people because of the circumstances which surrounded how this crime took place. What had happened is this is a captain, this is a high-ranking GDF official. Okay, this is somebody, I believe he's a lieutenant in the Coast Guard, as you know, as later reports had said. So we're talking about somebody that commands a group of people. Okay, we're talking about an army figure that, if is deployed to, let's say, the border of Venezuela or the border of Brazil, will be in the position to make decisions. And this is what's key for me. He's in a position of power. Okay. Now, what happened here is this gentleman, on his off days, right, or whenever he had time off, used to drive a taxi, the car he had, to make an extra income, to earn some more money. Listen, I'm in no way, shape, or form against people having multiple sources of income. What the problem is with this scenario in particular for me is you have somebody that works for the state, is paid by the government, and is in a position of power that is now trying to drive a taxi to earn an extra 10,000, call it $10,000 a day. All right? That's trying to earn an extra $10,000 a day for his family, like as an honest living. Okay, he's trying to do the right thing. All right? He drove his taxi. The guy's a passenger called, and they sat in the front seat with him, right? And they said, well, I want to drop to North Rumvelt. What happened is he pulled up to the person's gate to drop them off. Somebody was waiting in the bushes and then came to the driver's side and attacked him, all right? And he fought back. And the passenger obviously was in on the crime as well. So the two of them were now fighting him. He decided he was going to try and fight back. And during the fight, one of them shot him. He got shot twice and he died. And there was a video that was released because it was all caught on camera. And he then, the two criminals then jumped into his car, the same taxi, and drove off. Okay? And left him there and he died. Now I want to discuss, my apologies. I'm going to be answering a call in a second here. I want to discuss why exactly a GDF high-ranking officer would need to be earning a second income through driving a taxi. Now, here's why I'm saying this, Asha, and you can chime in after this. Is because, again, if this person is on the border of any other country, let's say the border of Brazil and Guyana, and let them, right? And or border Venezuela, and somebody was trying to do something illegal, smuggle fuel, bring over guns, whatever they're trying to do. Now, this person who's trying to earn an extra $10,000 a day driving taxi, you tell me if somebody looked at him and say, hey, hold $1 million, hold $500,000, let me pass with this fuel, let me pass with these guns. If he would not be put in a position to have to say, yeah, like I need the money. And again, these are people, we're looking at the root causes of corruption here. Because I cannot understand how, again, somebody in his position would be left in a situation that he can't even earn enough money, being a GDF officer or a Coast Guard officer, and still having to earn $10,000 more in taxi a day.
Okay, and I have a different view on it.
Tell me.
Given the economic standing of the world right now, not just Guyana, like you said, we understand persons trying to earn 2 sources or 3 sources of income. I'm sure there have been situations where officers are tempted and offered bribe money. But this fellow, from how I see it, he'd rather make a $10,000 honest living then, because if he was accepting bribes at the border, he wouldn't have to drive a taxi, right?
Agreed.
So
completely agree with that.
I see that he's trying. Well, may his soul rest in peace, but he was trying to make an honest dollar. My perspective on all of this is, why are there so many illegal arms circulating in Guyana?
Well, that's it. This guy trying to earn a living and then still gets caught in the middle of this type of life and still gets killed.
Yeah.
You got all these police, all these other police and officers.
And it has to be unregistered weapons, because if it was registered, we'd already
the ballistics.
Shot him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So more needs to be done to control illegal weapons that are circulating in the country. And I'm sure you've noticed the amount of shootings have gone up.
Craziness. People, 2-3 people die every day in Guyana now.
Just last night, the super bed close to where I live was shot, and unregistered weapons again.
And we see it in the news. Why? You see, and don't worry, all the reports are all the crimes are reported.
What I'm saying is that I believe a campaign should go out to secure the nation, not just GDF members or business owners, but the citizens in general. The amount of persons that are being stood up and robbed with unregistered weapons. Somebody needs to start paying attention to this.
You know, we argue progress every day. We argue all these things, but come on, at what point in time are we going to realize that even the people that are trying to earn an honest living, like this guy, like this poor guy was, for his family, you know, whatever his reason was, still ends up losing his life, just literally trying to earn an honest living.
You know, if you want to judge a country's development, there are several things you look at, of course, economically and all that, but you need to look at the living situation of your poorest citizen. You need to look at the living situation in the quote-unquote suburban ghetto areas. And you need to look at the value of your dollar. Which I'm still waiting for some improvement.
I'm trying. Just on a personal note, I'm at the moment trying to buy some US. Right now, all the banks I've attended, not getting any, and the price I'm paying now for the people that have is $220 to one US.
Something nobody is speaking about.
I'm dealing with it right now.
I've encountered similar issues. You're trying to buy US and you can't get it, or the rate is extremely high. And every time it's brought up, it's sugar-coated. No, there's no U.S. problem in Guyana.
There's no shortage.
There's none, and everything is peachy. And no, we can't raise the value of the dollar because of economical and trade crisis. But can it not go up bit by bit? We're not saying make it, you know, like fantastic in a day, but over a period of time.
The substance. I'm going to bring up my most wonderful example right now. I'm going to take pictures. I promise everyone, I'm going to take pictures soon. All right? On Thomas Lands, between YMCA and QC. If you drive from there all the way down to Sandy Barb Street, from Camp Street there all the way down to Sandy Barb Street, you are going to now see, as we speak, that road completely breaking away at the sides again. And you're going to see all the potholes getting larger and larger by the day.
You're referring to Georgetown Safari.
Yeah. Well, here.
Call it by the appropriate name.
This is what I want people to realize. They have to fix that road again soon. This is going to be the third time they're fixing that road in 3 years since they got into power. Every year they're going to have fixed that road now.
You know, but it leads to another important point, something we've been speaking about. Are the contractors being vetted properly? Are their contracts airtight that if they do a poor job, they have to do it over? What is happening?
Well, I'm glad you brought up contractors, because that's my next gaffe. That's my next topic of conversation. So, in the news yesterday, I think, this is the Christchurch Secondary School, the contract has just been awarded. And I was actually called by a couple of contractors to say, can you please bring this up, because we're not exactly sure what's happening. A new $688 million Christchurch Secondary School being completed within 7 months.
Did you say 68 million or 600?
No.
Please.
There it is. A $688 million contract was on Wednesday signed for the reconstruction of the Christchurch Secondary School.
Was this publicly tendered?
and again, it was brought to my attention. I am not in the construction industry, but I can tell you, I know quite a few contractors that said if this was tendered, we missed it because we would have bid on it. Because for this much money for this building, well, we got a lot of money to make here. Because $688 million for this building, they were all put on their back feet.
Yeah, but this is another thing, and this is also sugar coated every time it's brought up.
Right. There you go. There it is, right?
Wow.
So here is what I find, and I'm going to tie back into a very interesting conversation about this now, because this is what actually bothers me the most. I'm going to ask, can you bring up the previous picture with where this contract was signed and who signed the contract? It's just the picture previous to this. Now, this picture was signed by the Ministry of Education.
That's interesting. Is it the Ministry of...
Hold on, we can get into a cafe that I think we have to connect two dots. This is the ministry that just said they have nothing to do with the dorm room that burnt in Madia, in which 20 children lost their lives. So you're telling me that you are signing a contract to build this school, but not any other school? If this school burns down, and again, who takes responsibility for this? If not the person that's signing the contract.
Well, what's interesting is that the company that has gained this contract is a foreign company. Do we not have local companies or contractors who have the ability or the capability to make our schools? Why are we sourcing this overseas? Why are we sourcing this without public bidding? Why are we sourcing this at such a high cost to the taxpayers?
$688 million. That is ridiculous.
This comes out of the taxpayers' pockets.
Every single dollar.
So we are paying $688 million to a foreign country, a foreign contractor company, and it's not going to come back into our economy. It goes out of the country. One, two, is that feasible?
Yeah. So I thought that was a very interesting example of the reality of what exists in this country and how business is being done. And the fact that everything is this photo op, everything is look how much work we're doing, meaning every time we step out of our house, we're going to take a picture. Every time we walk onto a construction site, square pegs and round holes. We don't know nothing about construction. No, the minister, listen, how do I have a minister of education that, I think she's a lawyer by profession, all of a sudden now, an education expert is now signing to build a school. This doesn't make any sense. How? This is not even in your world, in your realm of professionalism.
It is quite interesting that the Ministry of Education signed that.
It doesn't make any sense.
But I'm not gonna attack Minister Manichan because she's one of the women that I believe has been actively in the field working. Mm-hmm. I see her out there. I see the effort she's making. While I agree with you that we need experts in the field, I believe that her advisors with her also need to step up.
So then it boils back down to, and I always give this example. If something goes wrong, do you blame the advisors?
Yes, who needs to be held responsible? But I think we need to look into this a bit more, find out exactly if this was publicly tendered and why the cost is so high.
So high. What an exorbitant cost.
I look at it from the point of view of our Guyanese people.
Yeah.
It must be so disheartening as a Guyanese person working in Guyana, knowing that you could build a school for your own children. And you're not afforded the opportunity.
I can't, again, so here's my biggest problem in this country, Asha. We have, and I'll use prime examples. We have a minister like Ropes and Ben, who is a civil engineer, but heading the Ministry of Home Affairs, the security for all the country, the police force, the GDF, all the different branches of security in this country. He is not a security professional. As a matter of fact, why is he not the Minister of Public Infrastructure? Is that not the civil engineering like ministry? And then, but you got Bishop Edgehill, again, not an industry professional. And then you have, again, now Priya Manichan, Minister of Education, who's a lawyer. signing contracts to build schools. So you have all of these, and it's a very common term in Guyana, square pegs and round holes, because these guys do not understand any of the ins and outs or technical criteria of their ministry. So my problem here is, it's kind of like me becoming the Minister of Health. What nonsense would that be? I'm not a doctor. I know nothing about health.
Let me center you back to where all of this boils down. Because the reality is, regardless of it's the PPP or the APNU, both of them did the same thing.
Absolutely. Completely
and this is why independent persons, third parties, us, we need to have a say in all of this.
Yeah.
And we should be given the opportunity, because I'm sure we're not going to put an accountant to be Minister of Health, for example. Just an example.
Yeah. So you're a minister. So basically these ministers are just put in place based on the fact that they're loyal to their party. But in actual fact, there's no kind of resume that they have that makes them fit to do this job properly.
But this actually comes down to the system itself. In other countries, in order to be a politician, you must have a certain background of training and education.
Yeah,
but Guyana's
public
system,
management, etc. Yeah,
Guyana's system is really different, and I think in the future it's something we need to work towards in order to fix the overall issue.
Yeah. And I can tell you, and I think you in your position, much like mine, is we work and live in Guyana. I mean, if we were to be put in that position, I wouldn't expect you as Asha Kissoon to even take any minister position other than health. You're a doctor, right? This is the area and field that I know. I can offer my skills to best benefit that ministry. How about I say, Asha, come on, be Minister of Public Infrastructure. What you can do in there? Do exactly so. And here's
hold on. I would know not to give a contract of 668 million to build a school.
Something seems wrong here.
Okay.
I may not be an engineer, but this doesn't seem right.
No.
So here's then something that I think is a big topic that needs to be discussed when it comes to these types of situations, is understanding the details and the ins and outs of these industries. So for example, health and safety. Okay?
Yeah.
HSSE. This is such an interesting conversation, because what I found recently, and this is something that's been bothering me a lot, we have been watching the president and the ministers show up on like construction sites, barking orders at people, wearing slippers and short pants and a sweater. Got on a hard hat and a vest and pretending, I'm fully geared up. Do you know anywhere else in the world, or as far as regulations go, they should not even be allowed on that construction site for two reasons. One, you're not prepared. And two, you're not even trained to be there. How are you standing here screaming at people to do their job properly when you don't even know their job? Yeah. Right? And here's what I find very interesting, because it boils back down to health and safety. We have a complete breakdown and lack of systems in this country. And what people don't realize is when it comes to safety and systems, those two things are directly correlated in being the driving factor on how that system is created. Meaning, health and safety is the first priority when it comes to creating a system of any type of protocol. So you're on a construction site, and let's say you're building a road. Okay, well, if I tell my truck driver to drive this truck and throw the sand there, that is the most direct route. It's the cheapest route. It's the most efficient route. No, you can't make that decision, because the first thing that has to happen is the health and safety professional has to come in and say, is it safe to drive there? Well, after that decision is made, then you figure out, yes, I could drive there, or no, I have to find another route.
So I was with a team from Suriname last week, and they said to me, they're like, Dr. Asha, it's very queer the way Guyana does things. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, they're building a road over there and we're driving right next to the site. In Suriname, you can't do this. You need to be 10, 20 feet away from the work site itself. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And really, it still comes back to the contracts being awarded. Because in the contracts you have with the contractors doing the various jobs, the president shouldn't have to tell you what to do. In their contract, it should state clearly what the safety procedures are. If you don't follow them, what should be done.
Exactly.
And more stricter penalties need to be put in place.
Asha, we just recently had a building on Sheriff Street. this was barely covered in the news. A whole part of a building fell off and crushed and killed someone. Okay? Up to now, we have heard nothing back about this. We know nothing of what's occurring. This thing has just kind of fallen off the planet. Somebody lost their life, and that's the end of it.
Well, I'm still looking forward to seeing a plan being put forward from government itself in relation to fire preparedness for schools, dorms, health facilities, all government agencies, because coming back to the disaster that happened recently with the children of Madia and the after effects that happened, we do want to see systems be put in place to prevent anything like that from ever happening again.
You know what my problem is, Asha? Because nobody is going to be held accountable for it, there's no punishment for what has happened. Nobody cares to hurry up and do it. Nobody cares to move forward. Well, you're going to find a couple band-aids. You can see in an article, oh, we're looking at the fire side of this. Let me tell
I see one of the very limp band-aids being put on it right now is charging a young girl.
Oh my gosh. Well, we can jump straight into it now. What are they charging the little girl on?
I see no trial has been done, no investigation.
No report. I've seen no fire reports. I see no police reports. They don't even know how the fire started. The little girl has denied doing it. So I am confused. What are they charging that little girl on?
For 19...
20 now.
20.
Yeah.
20 cases of murder, not manslaughter.
Murder.
And no trial has been done. It's very...
Well, this is a charge. Understand the difference between charges and convictions.
No, well, they haven't done an investigation. Let me rephrase. No investigation has been done. No.
This thing is craziness. It's just they're trying to push it off on somebody else to show that they don't have any responsibility, which is exactly what I was on the road fighting for. Of course, the government has responsibility, because even if, again, as I say, that little girl did light that fire, there was not even a fire extinguisher to put it out. I've shown the security advisor, Jerry Gavaya, did an interview. He was on the phone here talking to Asha Kissoon then. The first things first is he gave us a very detailed report as somebody on the ground. So as a government official on the ground when it happened, when this whole incident was occurring or directly after, I will take what he said, okay? So the first thing he said is the little girls, a group of the girls that saw the fire, tried to get it out, tried to put it out. Not a fire extinguisher, nothing, okay? They obviously failed. Whatever they would do, they throw blankets, they throw their mattress, whatever they tried to do, it didn't go out. The girls then ran to where the house mother was sleeping. This is another big rumor going around that I think is an absolute joke. Everybody is like, oh, the house mother locked the children inside. Where did that even come from?
Yeah, eyewitnesses have said that she was there. Her own child died in that fire.
Well, again, I will happily post it soon, or I could play it. I'll play it on the next show. Where Jerry Gavaya said the house mother was in the house trying to put the fire out and try to help the girls, trying to open the door with the keys. Obviously, the place is dark. She just wake up herself. And with all 60 children pushing each other and forcing her, apparently the keys fell.
Yeah.
Again, through all the scuffle, everybody getting trampled. They never got out of the house. They tried to break down the door, blah, blah, blah. And 20 girls of the 60 or 50 something died. Right? So, again, all of this misinformation being peddled by the government and the government's news agencies. And I'm sitting here going, how could you charge a little girl?
Let me see. The efforts made by the president after the incident happened, they're admirable. He was on site all night. He made sure they were evacuated. A child was sent to New York for specialty care. The families were taken care of. That's all admirable. What I'm saying, it should have never gotten to that point in the first place.
Right, correct.
So prevention is better than cure. While you did control after, and now a young girl is being charged before an investigation was done and a report is out. Right. Let us see you put the same action and vigor into preventing further issues like this from happening.
I know, Asha, I hear y'all, and I'm on board with it. But I'm sorry, this is something that's actually extremely close to me. And what gets to me the most, Asha, is that this is something, not 1, 2, 3, 4 schools burned down in the last 2 years. Yes. They cannot say they didn't know this was coming. So for you to sit there and nobody is being punished, nobody's taking responsibility for this, I'm sorry, it's unacceptable. And it just goes to show how much of a cesspool is going on in the government, how dirty it is in there. Nobody will take responsibility, even though that school is a state school and it's your responsibility. And all the little supporters, and I'm going to call them ridiculous people out there screaming, oh, it's not the government fault, it's APNU for this and APNU for that. Stop passing blame. It's them in power now. If they didn't want the responsibility, then they shouldn't have go in government.
On the hierarchy of things going up, when their investigation is being done, I would like to know if reports were ever made that these measures, the fire extinguishers are not there. These measures.
You want to know?
I would like to see in that report if this was reported. So if it was reported and they didn't act on it, that's a different
There's
situation.
3 reports. There's 3 reports that are already found and factual. Okay? We're gonna play the clip here, but you're gonna play those clips that I just sent.
Were reports made? Are they aware of?
One by the UNICEF and 2 by the fire service. Up to February 2023, the last report by the fire service was made. Okay. So what I'd like to do is just show this clip here. I'm gonna ask the operator to bring it up. This clip is of the Freddie Kissoon show and Jerry Gavaya on the phone with them speaking. Yeah. So sorry, he's just trying to load it up for us. And it's just
that's what I'm saying, Kian.
Yeah.
And this is something because people have been asking me these questions.
Mm-hmm.
Were they aware that this was needed in the various schools? Has somebody been telling them? Because it's one thing to say, well, all right, we didn't know this is happening, but we're going to look into it. And it's something completely different to say, well, we asked for these things and it was never given, now look what happened.
So
again, systems and lack
it's not
thereof.
unusual to have.
I think it's playing there. Can you guys hear it?
Big building, and you had the rooms inside, and at one end of the building was the room where the dorm mother stayed. Usual to have one dorm mother because all she was there to do is ensure that that the girls keep their rooms clean, that they go to bed when they should, and wake up when they should. There were 2 security guards on the outside of the building. And basically, in any dorm, with students at that age, they were prohibited from having cell phones. And then when the time comes at 9 o'clock at night, they actually closed the building down to make sure that, just like when you lock up your house, you lock up your house so that your children and up at night and going outside. And so what the dorm mother did, when she at 9 o'clock, they locked the doors from the inside, and she's on the inside. So where you have rooms, the room doors are not locked. So you can move from one room to the next room, but to get out of the main building that is the door that the dorm mother would have locked and had possession of the keys in the building. So when the fire was set, and so first of all, it's not unusual to have one dorm mother in there, basically overlooking the welfare of the girls in that dormitory, in that section, because there was a male dormitory and a female dormitory. So that is so the girls apparently was trying to out the fire. They were all banding together and trying to. So the girls apparently was trying to out the fire. They were all banding together and trying to out the fire. And when they couldn't get the fire out, then they ran. By the time they were spreading. And the other thing about this is that where the building is located, it's not located in the central part of Maria where there's a lot of traffic at night. This was more of a kind of a little remote area where it was private. And so when this thing started, there was not a lot of people on the outside other than the security guards. And then the girls went to try to get the mother to wake her up. And they went to her room and they woke her up. Now she woke up a little bit dazed. She got the keys, but she couldn't find the right key apparently to open the lock, and then the keys fell. By that time, the fire started to rage in the building, and people, the dorm father from the other dorm apparently, and so other people came to the building, and then I think they kicked one door in, and they tried kicking on the other doors. So there was no grill on the doors.
Now, Asha, what I find so interesting about this scenario is that everyone, even reading one of the fake accounts here, that the PPP paid to come on the show and talk nonsense and said this matter is done for weeks now. Why are we still talking about it? 20 children have died and they're done with it. That's the PPP supporters. We're done with this. Nobody takes responsibility.
Regardless of if it's a PPP supporter, APNU, private citizen, I'm still speaking about it because our children deserve to be safe and no systems have been put in place as yet. And it's not politically vindictive to call for these systems to be put in place because us as parents in our homes, we have a responsibility to ensure that our children are safe. Government has a responsibility to ensure that all government institutions have fire preparedness plans to ensure and protect the children from incidences such as this. And while we sit back and try to play politics or call it political vindictiveness, we need to realize that everyday children are still at risk while these systems are not in place. Yep. And I would continue to speak about it until something is done because it needs to be done.
Yes. And not to mention, it's not just about the new buildings and the shiny things that they want to take credit for. It's also about making sure what currently exists are upgraded and facilities are put in place.
You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
No, exactly. Sprinkler system, fire extinguishers. I mean, come on. This is how many schools now. Anyway, again, like yourself, I will continue to talk about it. They can just watch another show because I'm not about to sit down here and have 20 children, perish and nothing be done about it. Nonetheless, the court case is still ensuing. I do believe we have reached our time. So I would like, Asha, to thank you for coming on. I know you're very busy in Parliament, and I'm extremely looking forward for you to be updating us on the changes that you're trying to make to the laws. Because if there's one thing we have to realize at some point is if we keep doing the same thing over and over, we're not going to make any progress.
Thank you for having me, Kian. This was quite interesting.
It's quite always interesting to have you. Thank you again. Nonetheless, thank you guys for joining us. We are back here next Friday as usual. My name is KIAN Jabour. This is Apolitically Incorrect Guyana, and we will see you back here next Friday. Take care.